So we're into the fourth decade, which is 83 to 93, but we're going to cheat a little bit because obviously we want to really look over when and why you founded the 16, but also we're just going to look at the beginnings of that. So you've gone to Westminster Abbey, you've left Magdalen, but you've made so many connections there. How do you think that going from Westminster and then from there to the BBC Singers, how do you think all of this sort of came together to explain why you started the 16 and how you developed the group?
Well, I suppose in many ways I needed to know that I didn't want to sing anymore. And that's not the reason for going to Westminster Abbey. That was a natural progression from Magdalen. I was enjoying my singing, and the chance to sing in London in another wonderful place. I mean, can you imagine? Canterbury Cathedral, Magdalen College, Oxford, Westminster Abbey. Yeah. And I sat next to the wonderful David James of the Hilliard Ensemble. And I had so much fun singing. It was this thrust into this community. Again, I didn't know London at all. I was a Canterbury lad. I'd maybe been to it once or twice. So I was so naive, but thrown into this wonderful community at the Abbey. It was just amazing. Lots of fabulous music, and then I needed to sort of start beginning to do my own thing. I did enjoy singing. But I knew fundamentally that I could make a better job of getting the best out of people in front of me if I stood in front of them.
That's a lovely, humble yet sensible call, isn't it? Because it is quite hard when you're within a choir and you find yourself wanting to lead the way. You've got your own ideas and yet you're still following a conductor. Did that then experience at the BBC, did that help you and consolidate your decision, working with presumably various conductors?
Oh, yes. I mean, quite frankly, I joined the BBC Singers knowing that I didn't want to sing anymore, and they knew that as well. The powers that be knew, but there was a vacancy there, and they were so supportive. I remember Geoffrey Mitchell and John Paul. Geoffrey was the manager of BBC Singers in those days. John Paul was the conductor, and both of them saying to me, "Look, Harry, we'll support you for every bit of conducting you want to do." I mean, that was amazing. What an opportunity. And I'm so pleased they did persuade me to join the Singers, because I was able to sing with some phenomenal people and under the baton. We did a lot with the Symphony Orchestra. Yeah. So it was a lot with the likes of Boulez, Rossosvensky, Seiji Ozawa. It was just immense. And then in the Singers, we got through repertoire like nobody's business. First 2 months of every year was wall-to-wall contemporary music. Some of it I loved, some of it I didn't like. But I've always talked about this black book I had, which I did. Unfortunately, I've lost it. I don't possess it anymore. But in the front of it, I had written down all the pieces I knew I wanted to do with the 16, which I, really recently formed. And in the back of it, I'm afraid, it was all those pieces I never wanted to see ever again in my life. And that's remained so. But BBC introduced the likes of Messiaen, Poulenc. I mean, just what an incredible composer. And we did his Figure Remain, of course, which had been first performed by the BBC Singers, much to Poulenc's joy, but also sadness, because apparently when the first performance, when the BBC Singers started singing, they sang it in English, and his face dropped.
What a shame.
I know, but of course that was, again, the very early days. Yeah. So, one of the pieces that I loved doing with the 16, not only Figure Remain, was also Soir de Neige, which was the precursor of Figure Remain, this sort of mini cantata. Just brilliant music. I mean, you know how difficult those pieces are.
But also what I've always loved, is the way that you've programmed things. You blend styles of music, genres, eras, and you pace programs really, really beautifully. They're just a joy to be a part of. Do you think some of that's come from watching other conductors build their programs as well?
I think it has. I think probably more to do with the programs that are not being built. I think because I remember all those really well. I remember, I remember countless sort of earlier music concerts where, there would be, a mass in one half and mass in the second half. And I thought, hang on, no, we can't do that. It's all the same format. And so, bit by bit, I wanted to sort of just compare and contrast. And actually be quite blatant about things, I remember one pilgrimage in more recent years, I put Palestrine and Poulenc together, and it really worked. Cornish and Benjamin Britten.
Yeah.
How does that happen? Medieval music and Parry. And it sort of contrasts work really well.
But it's clever as well, because you're a singer as well as being a conductor. You do have to know it from both sides. You need to know stamina-wise what's going to work, and placing-wise. You can't just be singing, banging out all these top notes and then grumbling at the bottom. So it's thinking carefully about how it all comes together. Now, it would be remiss of me in this decade not to mention that this may also have opened the doors to Arsenal Football Club. So just briefly, tell me about your love of Arsenal.
Well, that started in 1977 when I left Magdalen and moved to London with my good friend Peter Hayward. Pete and I, the first Saturday we'd moved in, we were lost for something to do, and I sort of pulled back the net curtain, and there were all these people walking past, and we went, hang on, there's a football ground around us. So we went down, we got tickets to Highbury on that very Saturday, and it was Arsenal against Manchester United, and Arsenal had just bought a guy called Malcolm MacDonald from Newcastle United, and Arsenal won 3-2, and it was the fastest game of football I'd ever seen in my life. Hooked. That was it.
Music and Arsenal.
Yeah, and then Pete bought me for my 50th birthday, I think it was, or maybe my 60th birthday, a stone. Pete and I got a stone at the Emirates.
So London's got a lot to answer for between Westminster Abbey, setting up the BBC Singers, your love for Arsenal, and presumably also gave you the wings to start developing your newly founded group, the 16.
It certainly did.